Step right up, it's nailed. A Halo by Halo journey through the music of Nine Inch Nails. I'm Blake.
I'm Jessica.
And this is not a Halo. It's a Between Halos special. And we have a special guest. Kind of like the time when we did the Charlie Clouser, and people didn't get too mad that it wasn't Halo because they were just happy to hear Charlie. But we have a guest, so without belaboring it, please welcome funny person, musician, singer-songwriter, Simpsons expert, podcast, above all, fellow podcaster, the highest thing on the CV. Allie Goertz, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Nailed.
Yes, I'm
Welcome.
sorry that I'm not a Halo.
But in your own way, aren't you?
Hey, I like that.
What if we were called Halos instead of like pigs? That wouldn't be as good. No, that's not good. Never mind. And not bearing the lead, a lot of this will come later, but what brought me to Allie in the first, I already knew you from listening to, I'm not going to remember the name of the damn podcast that I listened to.
That's okay. It had a lot of names.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was everything I was a Max Funster. I listened to a lot of those, and through the ads there, I discovered everything's coming up. Simpsons, which is what it was called when I came to it. Then it became Round Springfield.
Yeah, but it started out as Everything's Coming Up podcast. This is for any non-Simpsons fans, which I don't know if they even exist, but that is, of course, a play on Everything's Coming Up Millhouse. And I thought it'd be funny if we were Everything's Coming Up podcast, but when we got switched over to a different network, they were like, that's a horrible name. Can you please put Simpsons anywhere in the title?
They're like, we're not putting podcasts in the titles of our podcasts anymore.
Yeah.
You should have heard some of the names Blake had for this podcast.
We'll talk about failed titles. But I had bad ideas, and she said Nailed, which was, and we could have done Nailed It, which I think is overdone.
Yeah.
Nailed is so much cleaner and better.
I would never let you do Nailed It.
Yeah, Nailed is also like more evocative. Like it's like Nailed It is kind of like dorky and Nailed is like, oh fuck, just got nailed.
Yeah, and I wanted it to be sexual, and this is a little bit sexual, but more tasteful than the things I had come up with.
I want to know what they are so much.
One of them was the whole 9 inches.
Oh yeah, the whole 9 inches.
I was like, no.
I love that.
No, not happening.
I'm glad you remember that. Closer to Pod is deeply stupid, and an older 9 Inch Nails cast used "You Get Me Closer to Pod" as their sign off, and I didn't know that. So I'm glad I didn't.
That's a good one, though. I mean, I'm on my Kickstarter for my 9 Inch Nails cover album. One of the rewards is a horrible T-shirt, and I call it a horrible T-shirt because my shirt is going to say "You Get Me Closer to Goertz," which is my last name. Could not be worse. Could not be worse.
No, it starts with a G, so the joke is there. I like it. Would buy. So, what is it? Is it N-I-N? Is it Nin? For you, is it 9 Inch Nails, 3 syllables every time? Is it nails?
Like, what do I call it?
Yeah.
I say 9 Inch Nails.
Okay. So every time she does that often. And I used to do that.
I'll say Nin sometimes, but I kind of feel dorky saying that. So I just say 9 Inch Nails.
I do too. Thank you.
I feel dorky, but I want to save time so much that I got tired of saying 9 Inch Nails.
It's not that much time to just say the whole band name and make yourself sound a lot cooler.
Yeah.
And Nails is cooler than Nin too. So sometimes I do say Nails.
Yeah, I feel like people that were in the band and worked with the band say Nails more often. Like industry people say Nails. I feel like it's weird.
I have heard that as well, especially when I'm talking with fellow musicians for the project. They say Nails, but I want to take the time, as much time as we could be spending with the 9 Inch Nails universe dialogue. I'm in for it.
You're right.
No
you
rush.
Want to spend more time with Trent and the boys, the boys from Cleveland. So I wanted to talk about your recently getting into 9 Inch Nails and how that happened and how it took so long in life. But as a real quick thing before that, you had like an EP of songs about Rick and Morty. And
Oops.
Rick and Morty, I think it was season 2. Yeah. We'll get to that. Okay, we'll get to cancellations.
Sure.
But they used Hurt, like not the Johnny Cash or anything, actual Hurt. I think it was the end of Rick and Morty season 2, and it was like a thing. Did that not? I don't know if you watched it or not, but did it make you say, "Oh, who's that"?
I don't think I remember that happening, or it wasn't conscious to me that that was Nine Inch Nails. So, consciously, I did not listen to them at all until a year ago. I saw them on the episode 8 of The Return of Twin Peaks, and that was the first time that I had ever been aware of what genre of music they even do. But that's the Nine Inch Nails. That they refer to them as the Nine Inch Nails. So I don't technically count that.
T-Nin.
Yes.
As some people are abbreviating now. It's not Nin, it's not N-I-N, it's T-Nin.
I like that.
Okay, what about this? God knows you love The Simpsons. The weird fake N-I-N poster and Homer Palooza, and Homer said, "You'll know the line way better than me," but I believe he says, "Here's your no-name bands: Sonic Youth, Nine Inch Nails." Did that spark your interest at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, that episode came out, God, in what year? I would have been 7 or 8 years old. So it's kind of the band's I had heard of the band name before. I just didn't know what they were about. And my parents were just really good about showing me their favorite music, and I loved it. So everything that I was kind of spoon-fed was enough for me to feel very satiated in music. I never went through a phase where I was I gotta find my own taste, because I loved everything that I listened to. And I was just massively into what I thought was a very eclectic palette of music. I was very much listening to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and AC/DC, and then also jazz and gypsy jazz and kind of power poppy things. And then my sister got me into Kanye and Outkast and just a wide gamut of music. However, my dad was also a huge snob and wouldn't really allow me to listen to the radio. And so it was kind of I wasn't allowed, I grew up in the 90s, and I was born in 91. And so when I was a kid, what was popular was boy bands and Britney Spears and stuff like that. And I was also very snobby about I don't like that type of music. And so we wouldn't listen
too.
Yeah, so we wouldn't listen to any top 40. We would just listen to CDs and my dad's iPod and stuff. And so it wasn't it wasn't accessible to me. It's not like these songs by Nine Inch Nails were still constantly on the radio, but if they were, I wouldn't have even known. And so same with the music videos. By the time that I was aware of music videos, they weren't really playing them. It was you know what I mean? So it was just not really around for me.
Yeah. MTV was in their teen mom phase at that point, probably, when
yes.
you were getting into videos and stuff.
It was the show Made and Room Raiders and stuff like that. It was that
and
era. Next, God, I love
Next.
I deeply love Next.
Remember when they would do this shithead thing and someone would get off the bus and take 2 steps and they'd be like, "Next."
So mean.
I know. It's just cruel. It's like the writers wrote that cruelty in there.
Yeah. My next was called Singled Out, starring Jenny McCarthy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I'm a different generation, and so is Jess,
No. We're just elder millennials.
Right, right. My parents had zero culture, so I had to seek things outside of them.
Same.
Except my dad instilled a love of female vocal pop into me, which is really strange. And
like what?
He was constant. I was talking about this the other night. He was constantly playing Desiree, I remember, if you remember her. When Katie Seagal put out a solo album, he was maybe the biggest fan it ever had.
That cracks me up. Was it originals or was it covers? I didn't even know this existed.
It was originals. It might have had covers on it too. But I don't know. She might have had more albums, but I only remember that first one. He had Robin's first album, who this was the late 90s. Later, she became an indie pop darling. But this is a pretty mainstream Swedish pop star, Robin. She didn't like the stuff some producers made her do on her first record. But my dad fucking loved it, and it wormed its way into my brain. And now I'm a pop head whose favorite band is Nine Inch Nails.
But also has a love for Taylor Swift and Carly Rae Jepsen.
Yeah, that's the pop head. Inside of me, there are 2 wolves, and one is a pop head, and the other is a goth, I guess.
Love it. Well, I feel like you'd like my Nine Inch Nails cover album then.
Yeah, I think it's geared toward me. Yeah. Okay, so when you first discovered, I feel like you were discovering them at the same time as we were starting this podcast, if I have my timeline right.
Yeah, for me, it was end of March. It was in March that I got of last year, of 2022, is when I got into Nine Inch Nails.
March of 21 is when we started recording this, so never mind. I was wrong about that.
So they came to my life at the perfect time. Like, I was going through the worst couple of weeks of my life, and I just was like in a horrible headspace, and I was introduced, casually, like, hey, check this out. While I was getting a ride home, my friend was like, you should listen to this. And, I the next day was like, you gotta tell me what that was. And he's like, it was The Downward Spiral, but you should start with Pretty Hate Machine and like go through the catalog if you like it and go through this weird journey. And I was like, okay, I will. And so I put on Pretty Hate Machine, and I just like, it was like medicine. It was like, oh my God, like I needed this. I'd never have heard anything like this. And also like, I really need this for my soul, so to speak. Like, it just really was very healing and cathartic and angry and just really, really powerful. And so I just became very, very obsessive, and just, it's really for the last year kind of the only thing that I listen to. And I listen to a lot of music, but I listen to almost nothing but Nine Inch Nails now. And then Trent Reznor scores, and then the Beatles. And lately, the Tame Impala song that's at the end of the Dungeons and Dragons movie is my new earworm.
Wow.
There's just something about it that I really, really like. But it's rare that I don't listen to Nine Inch Nails. Like, I listen to Nine Inch Nails every single day, in part because I have to, because I'm making this album, and I'm trying to figure out, what I could be doing to each of these songs. And so I really need to digest them. But also just for catharsis, like, it just feels good every time I'm having like a bad day. It never fails to help.
Yeah, that healing aspect, I think, is what we hear from many, many people, probably most fans. It's kind of what gets people into it.
And we got really deep into them again because we grew up loving them, but kind of strayed away during my indie sleaze era, and and I kind of got lost. I was never a big fan of With Teeth, which is what we're going to be covering next pretty soon.
The younger folks are going to hate us.
Yeah, the younger folks are going to hate the older people who are like,
I love With Teeth, but I know that I understand, like, one of the things that's really kind of lucky for me is because I got into it all at once, I never had to wait to see what was next, and I never had an opportunity to build up what I thought the album should sound like.
So you didn't have to wait 5 years between releases.
Right. No, truly. And then, if it's not the type, because it's such a completely different sonic experience, and, like Dave Grohl's drumming on it. Like, you don't want your Nine Inch Nails to sound like Foo Fighters, like if you're used to it being a different thing, But it's because I didn't have any anticipation or build up or, stress or anxiety surrounding what it's going to be. It was just kind of easy for me to recognize the ways in which the songwriting kind of evolved and shifted and changed. And then I got to go right to the next album. And so it was just easy for me to kind of see what's the same, what's similar, those through lines, and not have that emotional reaction to it. It was kind of just like, wow, that's so cool that he got so different after this.
Yeah.
And it's so poppy, which, I love, because that's already the type of music that I tend to gravitate towards. But I could see kind of being like I went through this with Weezer or The Simpsons, or like a lot of things have like really shifted that, they start one way and then they end quite differently. But I don't know. I think that a lot of the later stuff is really excellent of Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, I mean, there's ebbs and flows, and I've liked it all, but like the trilogy of EPs, I fucking love. I mean, it's some of the best stuff they've ever done.
I love Hesitation Marks a lot because it kind of is what brought me back in and reignited my interest.
That's a controversial, sometimes hated one. I'm iffy on it, but I still like it a lot, and there's a lot to like about it. It's really different too, like With Teeth.
But yeah, so anyway, we went back and rediscovered. I guess during the pandemic, I was just looking for things that gave me comfort, and The Downward Spiral was an album that I listened to a lot in high school and always gave me comfort. And for some reason, I just curled up in a ball and just would listen to that album over and over and over.
Oh.
And then went back and re-listened to the other stuff. And then
And I think Broken was something to break out. If we were feeling angry, that was something to just blast real quick. You know?
get it out.
Yeah, well, exactly, because, like, before coming across Nine Inch Nails, like, I spent, I guess, what is age, 31 years of my life not having something that's good at, like, letting me do that. I've always just, like, I mean, I like punk music a lot, but that's not angry to me. That's fun. That's like, you know, it's just kind of like, at best, it's a little bratty, but it's not like getting that out of my system. And historically, I would more gravitate towards like Elliott Smith or like something really depressing. So it was nice to just have something that was angry.
Ooh, we have an Elliott Smith lover here too in this household.
Couldn't.
Yeah, I like that sad shit.
Oh, I love it. And if you listen to like Heat Miser, you know, his band, then you actually get some drums and some low end on it, which is fun. A little bit more upbeat. Though I hesitate to use that when describing anything Elliott Smith.
No, that makes me think of what Jess and I were talking about recently, obsessive interests, which many of us developed during the pandemic, and you have clearly started with Nine Inch Nails. My question is, with these obsessive interests where you dive in immediately and you dive in completely and utterly, can they last? Will you like Nine Inch Nails next year?
Well, that's a great question. I will say, so my pandemic obsession was the show Survivor. I had never seen it before, and I went from season 1 to season 40, and then I ended up having a Survivor-themed birthday party, and I like auditioned to be on the show. I'm now quite good friends with a number of people that have won the show and been on the cast. And funny enough, last year, it was just my friends, no Survivor cast members. Then my most recent birthday was Nine Inch Nails themed, and there were like 5 Survivor cast people there, like all dressed in like, goth alternative clothes. It was amazing.
Did they happen to be fans, just coincidentally?
Yes, yeah. Well, not really. Some of them were. A couple of them hate listening to Nine Inch Nails, and it's actually really funny because he's my friend John Cochran is like super into power poppy Beatles. That we actually bonded over the Beatles, which is like saying we bonded over liking the sun. Like it's just kind of like, okay, you like Weekends too? Like what? How did you bond over that? But
puppies, how do you feel about them?
Exactly. And so it's actually really funny because I'll force him to listen to the Nine Inch Nails song and then my cover. And every time that we get to my cover, he just like has a sigh of relief because he's just like, oh, thank God, there's no one yelling at me and there's no screaming sounds. He's just so sensitive to what and I'm sure a lot of us love about the layered tracks and kind of the aggression and violence and sexual nature, like the things that are exciting and fun about those songs can be really off-putting to people, which I love. I love making people uncomfortable listening to music that they wouldn't normally like.
Yeah. Well, speaking of uncomfortable, on your Kickstarter, I think you said something like you want your friends and family to join you in your love for Nin.
Yes.
And I wanted to know, why do you want your family to join you? Because I don't even want my family to know that I have this podcast, period.
Blake doesn't want his family to know any of his interests. Like, no.
That I'm the shame they'd feel to know their son is a podcaster. They know I work in podcasting a little bit, but if they know the whole truth, my God, the embarrassment.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I think of music as a way to very easily communicate with others. Making a playlist for somebody is like one of the most romantic gestures I can think of, and second to writing a song for somebody, And these Nine Inch Nails songs just impacted me so much emotionally that I kind of just wanted to share it. I just wanted to kind of give that to the people that I love in my life. And I kind of just figured that my friends and family would not get Nine Inch Nails as it was originally produced. And I still thought that these songs were really beautiful and touching and powerful and sometimes funny. And there were a lot of elements that I thought could be communicated if kind of arranged differently, if I peeled back some of these layers. And I kind of just did it as a little experiment at first for fun. I was just going to do 1 or 2 songs. But I fell in love with the process of covering Nine Inch Nails songs. Like I say this on the Kickstarter as well, I think, but I kind of never want to be done making this album because it is so enjoyable. And that's one of the reasons that I am not only doing an album of 12 songs, but I also am offering on Kickstarter like a whole B-sides album of like the demos that didn't make the album, because I've experimented with like 30 different songs and I kind of just want to keep going. I also have made it I'm not going to get to this amount of money, I don't think, but if I reach a certain stretch goal, I'm just going to cover all of Pretty Hate Machine.
I would like for that to happen. As just a consumer here, I don't just want the original album. I do want all the B-sides and extras. I want Pretty Hate Machine. Do Broken. Why the hell not?
Yeah, totally. I'm curious how I would do things that are like instrumentals. Like what's a cover of La Mer sound like in my voice?
Beautiful is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
can you speak French?
I'll have to learn.
Just a few lines.
Yeah, but it's been a really fun process, and so far it has worked in terms of getting the friends and family who don't like that style of music to really like the songs themselves.
Okay, well that makes sense. Like my parents are not going to listen to anything with screaming.
Right.
That's going to stop them dead in their tracks. So if I played my mom like The Frail or La Mer, she would probably think it was nice.
Absolutely.
But only something that sounded like that.
Well, for example, like Reptile is pretty intense, but my version of it is, in my opinion, like very, very touching. And like I really, my dream is for someone to have that be their wedding song. Like it's very beautiful. As long as you're okay being, hearing You're My Precious Whore, I think it's really touching.
I really liked I wish there was a longer clip of it, but what I heard online sounded really promising. And even though you changed up the chord progression completely and the whole mood,
yes,
I liked what you did.
She spreads herself wide open to let the insects in. She leaves a trail of honey to show me where she's been. She has the blood of reptile just underneath her skin. Seeds from 1,000 others drip down from within.
When naming the album, I mentioned discarded working titles earlier. Did you have any titles that didn't make the cut? Perhaps My Empire of Goertz.
That's great. That's really good. It's funny. I'm covering Hurt right now. I didn't want to do it because, it's already so famously covered, not just by Johnny Cash, but also so many people cover this song that I was like, how am I going to make it interesting? So I kind of figured I'll do it as a stretch goal and I'll just send it to everybody. It won't make it onto the album, but I think it is going to be on the album now because I actually really enjoy what I'm doing. But it's almost impossible for me to not sing I Will Let You Down, I Am Allie Goertz. It's just right there. Yeah. But in terms of possible names, I always knew it was going to be either Peeled Back or Peel It Back. My favorite song is March of the Pigs, so it was just kind of like, I always liked that lyric, and it was just so perfect for what I was doing with the songs that it was a no-brainer. It was like, it just instantly made sense to me, so it was always going to be that.
As soon as I saw the title Peeled Back, I was like, okay, that makes total sense. I see what she's doing with this.
Yeah.
What was the first song when you heard it and you were like, I want to cover this and do it? Was there a particular song or?
That's a great question. Funny enough, the first song that I did cover, is Every Day is Exactly the Same, which I did almost nothing to in terms of rearranging it. So it is not at all like symbolic to the project of peeling it back. It's just that I really loved that song and thought it was very beautiful and thought it kind of naturally would work with what I was doing. But it's weird that that's the first one that I did because it was well into my journey listening to Nine Inch Nails and deciding that I would do some covers. The first song that I heard that I was like, it'd be really cool to do that differently was Head Like a Hole, because it was the first song that I put on and I was just like, I love this. This is so cool. These lyrics are really great. But then I, funny enough, have not done that one. So it's funny how those things work. March of the Pigs is such a insanely cool song, and I love the time signature in it so much that I felt like if I could only do one song, it should be this one because it would be the most impressive to get right. But
that's a hard one to cover.
Yeah, it is. I've done like 4 different versions of it, and I'm going to release like all the different options that I put out. Like before I came up with like my kind of beautiful, pretty version of Reptile, I did a pretty loyal cover of Reptile, which is very weird in my voice. It does not sound good.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had like, you know, when I started the project, I wasn't exactly sure how one-to-one I should make the covers and how Nine Inch Nails-y they should be, because I didn't want to be disrespectful. Like, I really love these songs and I wanted to honor them and, like, you know, pay my respect. And so I didn't want to skip important musical motifs or rush through things just because I couldn't think of a fun way to do it. So when I originally did Reptile, I, you know, had like the 1-minute intro of like, like all that sounds.
Submarine sounds.
Yeah. Not actually those sounds, but I was like, how do I do a version of that? And, you know, I tried. And ultimately, I realized, like, this is not working. I need to just be okay with, you know, picking the parts of the song that mean the most to me, that I like the best, and not worry so much about, you know, the perception that it might have. Like, I am allowed to change the chords and do something a little different if I want to, because that's what art is. You're allowed to make those choices. Right. And I think that even in Reptile, where I change it the most, it still carries a lot of what I think is great about the original. It's not just like, now I'm doing a lounge version of Hurt, you know? It's like, it hopefully still has aspects of the original that people love as well.
I like that you really like, you've talked about that you like Reptile. I think something from the King cast where you said it was actually empowering to women. And I wanted to ask about that because when I have listened to it in the past, I'm like, oh no, am I a misogynist because I'm listening to these lyrics? I don't know how well they age. I still think it's a great song, but what's your take on it, I guess, that makes you like it so much?
I think that there's a tongue-in-cheek quality to a lot of the lyrics of The Downward Spiral, and that there's a self-awareness of, like, it's a character, like, this is a story, and I like that it's a story of this sexist guy, like, and this, like, it feels like there's a level of admission, perhaps, of like, okay, yeah, I fucking hate this person, but then also it's, I don't know, I like mean-spirited songs. Like, I always have loved, like, diss tracks, and I think that there's an art to being cruel and unkind, and I think that Reptile is very unkind in a very biting way that is touching. To be so mean about somebody so specifically, you know, so poetically, is a way love. Like, there's something loving about hating something in someone so much. And I think that that's kind of beautiful, because the ultimate way to hurt someone is to not care about them. So to show that you care so much by saying these insane things about a woman is, like, so funny to me. But again, like, when you hear it in my voice, in a woman's voice, softer and sweeter, the lyrics just change. They just become something else. And I'm really excited for people to hear these Nine Inch Nails lyrics just in a slightly different venue, because it really will put them in a new light without me having to do too much.
Yeah, you know what I'm really psyched / scared for Big Man with the Gun.
That is
How
okay.
the hell are you going to pull that off?
I have to
How?
be honest. I have to be honest and not be humble at all. I think it's my greatest achievement in life is my cover of Big Man with a Gun. I'm so
wow.
excited to show it to you. It's really fun. When I listened to that, I listened to the Downward Spiral many times, but for some reason, I just didn't really ever give that song much time. And I was walking one day and it kind of like entered my brain in a way that it hadn't before. And I realized just how funny it is. And, it's mocking. You could tell by the title that it's, again, a diss track.
Right.
And so I just thought like, wow, it's going to completely sound so different when a woman is saying, I want to come all over you. And it's like, I just can't wait. And I picked a tone. It's tonally different from the rest of the album because it's got kind of like this like groove to it. It's almost, this sounds like I'm insulting myself, and maybe I am. It kind of sounds like it could be in a 90s eHarmony commercial. Like there's something about it that's just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it.
Like a jingle?
Almost. It has like a commercial quality to it. But it's just kind of, it's almost jazzy. Like there's something a little groovy about it. But it's very mocking and it's not, I couldn't say that it's sweet. It's not sweet anymore. It's kind of sexy and mocking and like, it's a, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself with your big gun. It's cute.
Right. No, I can't wait for it. I'm also a little scared for it.
Hearing Big Man with a Gun described as cute is really funny.
Tell me why you're scared.
Well, it divides the fan base and people flip out over it. Some people do. It's an often skipped. People will say, I love the Downward Spiral, skip Big Man with a Gun every single time.
That's crazy to me.
It's a song where the music is really, really cool. The lyrics are quite obviously very offensive, but I know that it's
satire.
Satire. Again, I know.
It's so funny. I listened to you guys talk about this on the podcast, so I won't pretend that I didn't. I remember I remember hearing like you're the only one that likes this song maybe in the world, and I was like, no, I do. I fucking love that song. But I think people will like my version, even if they hate, maybe especially if they hate the original version. But you also, you might hate it. But the thing is like when I'm singing it, just having a woman sing it, like it's so obvious that I'm making fun of people that have guns and like people with big egos. And, I just think it kind of works.
I think it will work when you put it that way. I think it should have worked when Trent did it. Somehow he doesn't seem to particularly like the song.
I've heard that, yeah. And I'm so glad that he didn't end up not having it on the album, which it sounds like he was talking about. But but I really think it's so good. And I keep right now hearing that kind of warbly screaming sound at the top. I just think that's so fun and dizzying, and I really love the drums in it. I mean, it's kind of Nirvana-y, but like there's just something really fun about that song to me. And
it's like the most punk rock.
Punk. Yeah, it really is. And you know what? It's short. I don't know how you could ever have an issue with a short song. It's only taken up 1.5 minutes of your life.
Yeah.
It's punk, but it's also kind of country. Like the melody of it when I was coming up with my arrangement, I was doing it on guitar, and it kind of just naturally sounds like a country song when you sing it as is. Like, I am a big man, yes I am, and I have a big gun. Like, it just kind of has like a country feel to it. Fortunately, I did not stick with that, but I will be releasing that as a little demo thing. I think it'll be kind of funny.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Johnny Cash did that one, because it lent itself so much to the... Dun, dun, dun. Okay, well, I'll switch gears entirely mood-wise. The next, we go Halo by Halo, and the next thing we're going to talk about is a fan favorite, Still. And I wanted to know if you had thoughts on it, because people are going to want to hear about Still, and to give them a little preview, I guess, because it's like, Still is like NIN peeled back. It's NIN stripped down. Have you heard it? Are you a fan of Still?
I've heard it. To be honest, I don't connect yet. And I say yet because it is often the case for me that stuff that kind of challenges me emotionally or puts me in a different place than I'm wanting to be emotionally will take some time. For example, my skip song on the Downward Spiral is Hurt. Like I hated it with a fucking passion. Sorry to swear, but I hated that song. And
we don't swear here.
This is a clean cast.
Yeah, on Easter Sunday, no less. But I couldn't stand that song because I just didn't want to be sad. I wanted to be angry, and I wanted to be angry or horny and not sad. So I was just like, I cannot listen to this song. And now it like is so important to me. It's so meaningful to me. It like helps me a lot. Also, seeing it live was always every time you'll see it live. But it was just like really, really changed for me. That said, like, still just doesn't fit what I'm trying to get out of Nine Inch Nails at this time in my life. So it's the least listened to for me of all of the Nine Inch Nails albums. It's there's nothing about it that I don't like. It's just that I like everything else more.
Are you less into instrumentally stuff than you are into stuff with lyrics?
In general?
Well, with Nin specifically.
Well, funny enough, I listened to, Trent Reznor scores all day long and did before I knew that he was in Nine Inch Nails. I loved Trent Reznor as a composer. I just didn't know. But I listened to I listened to the mid-90s soundtrack every day just because it's very sweet. It's I love it. It's really lovely. So I love what he's capable of doing instrumentally, of course. And I love instrumental tracks on the Downward Spiral and the Fragile. Sometimes those are my favorite, as much as I love Trent's voice. But yeah, I prefer a little bit more grit and a little bit more of a heaviness, I think. Because I've always listened to stuff that's sad and slow, so I don't need that anymore.
Okay.
It's
you've listened to enough sad bastard music like Elliott Smith in the past.
I like the High Fidelity reference, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, still is definitely the sad bastard of the Nin canon, I think. But it's really beloved, and I think it's at the time that it hit me in my life, and I had this anticipation and this love of the Fragile building up to its release. And I think if you had that, it just hit differently. Yeah.
No, that makes total sense. And also, the age that you're a different person by the time that album comes out if you're not listening to it back to back to back like I am. For me, It's just I just learned about this band and I want to make it sound like that band again. And it does. But it's, you know what I mean? It's excellent. I look forward to when I'm in a different place and I'm able to kind of slow down and appreciate it. It's kind of similar. This is very different, but it's similar to me, my experience with the Before trilogy. I love, if you've seen those movies, Richard Linklater. The first movie is very young love, very wish fulfilling. The second movie is a little bit, I don't know. The first one is Downward Spiral. The second one is The Fragile. And the third one is Still, is what I'm getting at. Where I'm not ready to watch Before Midnight, the last installment, where they're in their 40s and fighting with each other. Because I'm not ready for that part of my life to have love look like arguments with a married person where you have kids. I'm not there yet. I'm still in the version of my life and music where I just want to believe that two people can fall in love and it's perfect and nothing bad will ever happen. So I just, one day I'll love Before Midnight, one day I'll love Still.
Truly the Before Midnight of the Nin catalog. What's weird about Still is that it's part of a live album package with a concert movie and album and everything. Are you a fan of that? Are you familiar with And All That Could Have Been, the live album? I guess their only official live album they ever did.
I'm actually not.
Okay.
That's exciting for me because, as much as I have digested and how many times I have listened to the things I have digested, there are still things that I've yet to discover, which I think makes this podcast actually very helpful for me to kind of go through and figure some of this stuff out because the Niniverse is big.
Yeah, well, I haven't even seen, neither of us have seen the concert movie that came after that, Beside You in Time. We admitted to the listeners that despite being, quote, experts of some sort, we have not seen that, and we're kind of saving watching that Beside You in Time Blu-ray, saving it for the podcast.
Yeah, I blame it on the With Teeth era because I kind of lost interest, and so that's probably why I never watched it.
But a lot of fans are saying they like that a live concert movie better. It's just a higher production value, maybe less sloppy. I don't know. I'll have to watch it to find out. But maybe that's the one I should be recommending.
I'll check it out.
Okay, this is off topic, but I kind of wanted to ask. It's actually on topic because Weird Al did some Nin stuff. You were background in the Weird movie, right?
Yeah, I was. Really exciting.
I imagine it would be because he's awesome. He's done some Nine Inch Nails parody stuff, which like Germs I thought was so awesome, if you're familiar with that.
Oh, of course I'm familiar with Germs. That's another situation where like I heard that before I knew what he was even like.
I did too, because
referencing.
99 to 2000 was when I got into Nin, and so I heard Germs shortly before I had heard Nin for real. So a little bit after that, I was like, "Oh, that's what that was supposed to be."
When did Germs come out?
99-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't.
But he wears
in
the
my,
fishnets and stuff like on stage.
Yeah, I wasn't in my Weird Al era. My Weird Al era was way before when he was doing like a surgeon or something. Because I'm old.
Anyway, I bring up
Sorry.
Watch Weird to see Allie, and I bring that up because Jess also got to meet Weird Al.
Oh, what was that?
I don't know why. Yeah. Yeah, I worked at a bookstore, and he was in Springfield on a stop on a tour, and he came into the store, and he was really, really cool and nice. And we all just kind of stalked him. Every bookseller was like, holy shit, Weird Al.
Yeah, he's maybe the only good person in the world.
I agree, based upon meeting him and talking to him for like 3 minutes.
Yeah. He did my Simpsons podcast back in the day, and he was like just very sweet and polite and tragically normal. He's weird, but he's, you want him to be like doing backflips.
What episode did he choose, or did you cover with him?
He did three gays in a condo, the episode that he's in. Narcissist. Yeah, he was great. And it was really cool. I kind of just asked the director of the movie, Eric Appel, hey, can I do anything in this movie? Like, I'll like show up with coffee. I'll be a PA, but can I just like be on set? I love Daniel Radcliffe, and I know I vaguely know Al. And he was like, absolutely, let's just get you in some crazy 80s costume and hair. I have huge hair. I'm kind of unrecognizable in it. But I am sitting right behind real Al and his wife. Very cool. They were very sweet. And yeah, it was an honor. And I never get starstruck really, but I got to meet Daniel Radcliffe dressed as Weird Al. And that was a little trippy. Like for one person that you're a fan of to be dressed as another person you're a fan of is a little weird.
I can't wait till they make the Trent Reznor biopic.
Oh my God. I'll hopefully be an extra in that.
Yeah, hopefully we are. Everybody loves putting podcasters in their films. We'll have to we've posted it before on the Nailed Instagram. We'll have to repost the picture of Jess and Al together in the bookstore. It's very cute. It's very cute. So, as you mentioned, you have stretch goals. By the way, this will be coming out tomorrow, Monday. And you know us, we're punctual. You have like a whole 2 or 3 days by that point to get on that Kickstarter still, which you should do because...
What's the highest tier again? I thought it was funny, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh, yeah, it was called Pay Pig, and it's basically if you want to be a pay pig and just give me $2,000, I won't judge you. Yeah, I had some kind of silly ones. I also had one that I would officiate your wedding, but you have to add $500 for each additional spouse if you're polyamorous.
And that seems only fair.
I think so. And I actually sold out of my. I offered nice voice notes that I would send you, like a thank you personalized voice note, but then I also offered a limited edition number of mean voice notes, and those ones flew off the shelves. People want me to be mean to them.
That makes sense for a Nine Inch Nails fan. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, how many people signed up to be pay pigs again?
Tragic. I really, I lowered the amount because at first I was like $5,000 and then I made it $2,000. Like, you never know. Someone might do it. And listen, there are still a few days left. I really encourage someone out there to take the plunge and go for it.
I think you got to add a kick in the balls. And then
Yeah.
they'll be like, yes, please. We
Yeah.
are NIN fans after all.
Yeah, it's really starting to feel like a kink starter. It's becoming a little.
Why isn't there a kink starter?
Actually,
It
I've got an
makes
idea.
itself.
Yeah.
Because OnlyFans is too vanilla. So.
Right.
I swear we are backing. It's just that we're still choosing what the hell tier we want because there's so many different things you can get. It's like, do I want the cassette? Do I want the CD? Do I want this limited vinyl? Do I want a kick in the balls and a memo from Allie? So we will figure it out.
Love it.
Probably right after this, and we'll be backers too, and listeners, you should too, so you can hear this cool album.
Yeah, become a peeled backer.
Yeah, peel it back. So you have stretch goals where you're gonna cover all sorts of other stuff. Is there anything that you're working on with that, like right now, that you can tell us about? Like what are you doing? Are you working with a symphony orchestra and
Yeah,
adding...
I'm working with a really amazing duo that are adding strings to just about every track. So everything that is on the album so far is completely just me. It's me and my guitar and then my MIDI keyboard to basically do all of the synth and the drums and the bass and all that stuff. And I wanted there to be a little bit more of an organic feeling to everything, and so it wasn't just so mechanical. And these strings, like, they are elevating these songs so much, and it's been really cool because they will come up with their amazing composition, but then, I'll have notes, and I'm like, how do I give notes back on violin? Like, I don't know the words to tell them what to do. And so I would just, record me singing what I thought the string should sound like. And I think I actually will release that to people too that are doing the behind the scenes tier, because I think it's kind of interesting to hear how the strings kind of came to be, what they did, what I did, and then what they ended up delivering, because they nail it. It's really amazing. Yeah. And then the other thing that I'm doing, in addition to, working on more covers and still locking down my track list, is I am going to be doing some Foley design, which I think will be really cool. Oh. And I do want it to have kind of some texture that makes it a little closer to the original in some ways, but in a new spirit, I guess. So that will be a lot of fun.
You do your own version of the beginning of Mr. Self-Destruct, where you're hitting something over and over, gradually faster.
It's me petting my cat. It's all sweet things.
It's not a man being beaten. This is a different mood.
Yes.
Okay, here's the stretch goal I want the most. Oh, by the way, I think you called the violins stretch goal add violins, which I fucking love so much.
Thank you. I have to say I'm very proud of all my puns for my stretch goals.
I'm a stupid pun person.
Yes, so one of them, so just so you know, I didn't allot for any of this money to just be a paycheck. It's all going towards the album, except I was like, you know what? My car door has been broken for so long. I'm going to give myself, the $500 it costs to fix it so I could just open my car door without having to crawl through the side. And that stretch goal was called God Fix Up the Door, which I was proud of that one. And then the most deep cut name was for the cassette. It's called It Is Taped.
That's the most tongue-in-cheek. I'm not even going to say what the reference is, but funny. If you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
No, what I want the most is, you mentioned stems might happen.
Oh, yeah.
And as someone who does mashups and does mixing and all that stuff, I want the stems.
Okay, so that's actually great.
I would love to do a remix. And you should do a remix album. That should be a thing
that'd be great. That's actually a really good idea. I wonder how that works, just in terms, because one of the things that's annoying about this project is I have to figure out all the legal side of things. But there's a world where it costs $15 per song per year to cover something, which is great. Love that. That's what I hope is going to happen. But there are also websites that will say oh yeah, you have to pay per download that people, like the more successful it is, the more that you'll have to pay. And so by a loose estimate, like on the low end of things, it would be like, oh, okay, cool, it's going to cost me $25,000 to release this album. And then now I actually have no money for anything. So we're hoping that it's the the cheaper version. Would have been good for me to get my ducks in a row before I made the album, but whatever.
No.
Life's
Worry
too
about
short.
that stuff later. Yeah. A friend of mine is working on a accordion covers album of Nin, and you know
amazing.
of Ixie, who did the
Yeah,
piano covers album.
I thought that was great.
I don't think they had too hard of a time with getting like the mechanical rights, I think they call it,
Yeah.
for covering.
But stems is a good idea. Because I only have a couple of days left to generate some excitement for it, I'll probably post about that right after this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to do a remix. So lastly, do you have any other projects in your life to plug, or has Nin subsumed your entire life and this is the only thing you have?
Yeah, Nin is my whole life. Nin is my whole life. I have an idea for what I want to do next, which is weird, but I'm talking to someone who I'm a big fan of, and I'm talking to them about theoretically doing a Twilight Zone concept album. And that actually is slightly Nin adjacent because there are quite a few
Yeah, I
songs.
was about to say,
that
are you
named-
talking to Trent Reznor?
Where is everybody? Yeah.
Yeah, and The Four of Us Are Dying.
Yeah,
yeah. But no, I've been talking to a composer that I love, that I really want to work with, and we will see if that happens. I would announce
Zimmer?
it. I guess Trent Reznor could still technically be who I'm talking about, but it's not Trent Reznor. But listen, if Trent ends up wanting to do it, this other guy kicking him to the curb.
Trent, if you're listening, if you secretly listen to Nailed, even though he did say he doesn't listen to podcasts.
It's a generational thing. It's okay.
Yeah, but Twilight Zone concept album is something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And now that I kind of have like this slightly evolved musical style because of this Nine Inch Nails album I've been doing, I think it kind of lends itself to it. And so that's what I'll probably start working on creatively next.
I would be into that. Okay, cool. Jess, did I miss anything at all?
It's the only thing, you have a little bullet point here that says LDR listening party. Lana Del Rey. We have a lot of Lana Del Rey fans, and I think he's referring to you playing at a Lana Del Rey listening party.
Jessica is an enormous Lana Del Rey fan.
Yeah, I do
my
love
gosh.
Lana. I think the pipeline from Nine Inch Nails to Lana Del Rey fan is real.
No, honestly, truly, I know that firsthand because I performed at a Lana Del Rey listening party for her latest album. And I went to this awesome record store called Fingerprints in Long Beach, California, which is where I'm from. So it was a nice little homey vibe. But there were like 300 people at the show that were all there just to listen to the album together. I think there was at the back of people's minds, there was a hope that maybe Lana would show up. She did not. But I did. And I had to apologize, just like for not being a Halo. I had to apologize for not being Lana Del Rey. It's a lot of apologizing.
I'm still mad you're not a Halo.
Yeah. But I sang video games, my cover of video games. And it was really special because everyone in the audience sang along to it because they love that song. And it was just really, really pretty and a nice little moment. And then after that, I sang Closer. And that was very fun to sing for all of these girls that love Lana Del Rey.
We didn't sign up for this?
Yeah, well, I had to say before it started, I'm sorry that if there are any kids here, you're about to grow up.
Real fast. Well, Lana says the F word, I've heard.
She says a lot of things. If she's allowed to say she's allowed to say that something tastes like Coca-Cola, I'm allowed to say what I want to.
But I don't think there's anything more offensive. I don't think the lyrics are Closer or
they got nothing on
yeah,
Lana.
they got nothing on Cola.
Video games is a great choice. I think karaokeing video games, I love to do that one. Mm-hmm. It's in my range, and just something about it. Mm-hmm. It's a really nice karaoke track. I need to do that one again. It's been years.
Has a beautiful chorus.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, and I actually would say for people that don't know my music, Lana Del Rey is not a bad comp to say. There's at least tonally in my voice when I go lower, you could say, and I'm flattering myself immensely here, you could say that it sounds a little bit like Lana singing a Nine Inch Nails song, at least like for Hurt, which is quite low in my register. So yeah, hopefully if you like Lana Del Rey and you obviously like Nine Inch Nails, you'll maybe enjoy what I'm doing.
And the Venn diagram is insane for those two fandoms and people who listen to this. It's way bigger than I ever imagined it would be. So
it makes sense. I mean, they're both tortured artists.
They're both geniuses.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely.
I'd agree with that. Last thing, you're going to make a Closer music video, or maybe you've already made it, but that's part of the Kickstarter, right? And I wanted to ask, what will the Closer music video be like?
Have you talked to Mark Romanek yet?
Have you guys watched that making of video? I think it's so good. I love that.
Yeah.
So yes, there will absolutely be tributes being made to the original Closer video. I won't share too much about it, but it is kind of, there's like an Alice in Wonderland style of story of basically the character of Allie falling into the Nine Inch Nails universe and becoming a Nine Inch Nails fan. And so it is basically taking who I was before the album, putting me through this Nine Inch Nails universe and spitting me out into this new person who is now embracing darkness and everything that makes Nine Inch Nails what it is.
Oh, that's totally not what I expected, but that does sound awesome.
What did you expect?
Just that you were just going to rehash the
Find those twins.
Yeah, well, you know,
in the video.
It's a really challenging project because to come up with a video because it's way easier to come up with something funny than it is to come up with something powerful and cool. And what I want is to be powerful and cool. And what I'm doing already makes people laugh no matter what, because hearing a soft-spoken girl sing, I want to penetrate you, or you let me penetrate you, like you already kind of chuckle just because it's like you're not used to hearing it that way. And there's just something kind of funny about that. But after I get into it, it becomes clear like this isn't a gimmick, this isn't a joke, this is just like kind of bearing my soul in this version of Closer. Like
this isn't like Richard Cheese.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly right. That is the perfect comp. Yeah, it's not just lounge act versions of these songs. Like it's like, I don't know. It's pretty important to me to make sure that I'm not making it too funny. And that's challenging because everything I do in my life is comedy based. And also if you look at my Kickstarter, like there's an aspect of humor to it, but I also think there is an aspect of humor to Nine Inch Nails, and there's like that self-awareness and cheekiness, and you know, so there's some of that, but it won't be like a full-on Weird Al parody of Germs.
And that seriousness is, I think, what makes us valid in our parents' eyes.
I love that.
So thank you so much, Allie Goertz, for coming on. And everyone should go to, is there an easy URL they can go to?
Yeah, if you go to alliegoertz.com, you can find it there, or you can just go to Kickstarter and search Allie Goertz, or just search Nine Inch Nails, and you will find my album.
You got a couple days to do this, folks. Don't disappoint me. Okay, so thank you so much, Allie, for coming on Nailed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all next time. And
didn't it make you feel better?
Thank you.
You had all of them on your side, didn't you? Didn't you? You believed in all your lies, didn't you? Didn't you? The ruiner's got a lot to prove, he's got nothing to lose, and now he made you believe. The ruiner's your only friend, and he's the living end to the cattle he deceived. Raping of the innocent, you know the ruiner ruins everything you see. Now the only pure thing left in my fucking world is wearing your disease.